Hello again, everybody. My name is Nathan ELEMENTofFROST. Welcome back to yet another episode review video for this week's episode of The Walking Dead. This was Season 6, Episode 3, entitled Thank You. And, yeah, this one was tough, guys. This one was tough. To get right into it, I'm going to do everything a little bit differently this week. I'm not going to go through a full recap and everything like that. I'm going to break down the episode, not bit by bit, but chunk by chunk, if you will. The most important parts, and, of course, not leaving out the possible death, I want to say possible death of a character, that is all very, very close to us as viewers. And just to let you guys know, obviously spoilers will continue in this video. It's an episode review. You can't really, review an episode without spoilers. So if you guys don't want to hear anything about spoilers or anything like that, if you guys haven't caught up to Season 6, Episode 3, do not watch this video. It goes without saying, honestly. Do not watch an episode review if you haven't seen the actual episode. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of basic knowledge. But anyway, now it's your fault if you get spoiled. It's your fault, not mine. I warned you. It's out there. So anyway, to get into things, at the very, very beginning of the episode, guys, Rick, Glenn, and Michonne and the Alexandrias basically race through the woods toward Alexandria, trying to warn them that the walker herds come in and, stuff like that, basically where the horn continues to blare. So we're going backstory a little bit more, a little bit than, what we've seen. Obviously, the two stories kind of merged last episode with Alexandria and the horn and stuff like that, and they stopped the horn. But like I said, now we're sort of going a little bit back in the past, a bit at the beginning of this episode, and the horn is still blowing. Kind of resuming from episode 1, if you will. So anyway, over the walkie, Rick tells Darrow to stay the course and keep the rest of the herd moving along the road. Rick tells his team that he's going to get the RV and redirect the breakaway herd before it reaches Alexandria. So he's going to backtrack all the way to that the wall that they built around the corner. Basically, get the RV and basically try to redirect the herd before it reaches Alexandria. So now, in private, he tells Glenn and Michonne that the Alexandrias with them aren't all going to make it. Rick basically instructs them, to lead the team back to Alexandria, but to keep going if anyone can't keep up. Don't risk your life over some of these people. You know what I'm saying? Like he cares about his family, like his main family first. And then he cares about other people after that. So if any of these guys can't make it, don't be willing to die for them in order for them to make it, basically is what he's saying. He's basically saying, you get home, that's all that matters. And that's just Rick, man. He cares more about his immediate family, and anybody with a family would totally understand that. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you'd rather take care of your own rather than, maybe even your best friend, for example. You know what I'm saying? So it just goes to show how close they all kind of are at this point, in a way. Anyway, one of the Alexandrias just then gets mauled by a walker, bleeds out. Bunch of Alexandrias are dying, stuff like that. So he dies. Michonne stabs him in his head. Afterward, Rick takes the gun and an energy bar off the body, while basically the remaining Alexandrias look on in horror. They're all distraught and everything like that about their friend dying, and Rick's just like looting his dead corpse and taking fucking candy bars and shit, and weapons and ammo. Obviously, they think that's, bad because, you're not really supposed to loot a dead corpse. It's disrespectful, if you will. But they clearly don't know how to survive out there. You know what I'm saying? You can't just let precious supplies like that go to waste. So, anywho, that's that. Glenn and Michonne lead the group towards Alexandria. Basically, walkers attack, sending the Alexandrias basically into a panic. Sturgis, which he basically fires wildly into the air and hits Scott in the leg before fleeing. Nicholas becomes paralyzed with fear, and a walker bites David on the shoulder. Meanwhile, Darrow tells Abraham and Sasha that he's leaving them to help defend Alexandria. Abraham and Sasha implored Darrow to stay until they reach the 20-mile marker as planned, but Darrow refuses and rides off on his bike, basically wanting to go help. You can handle this on your own. I'm going to go make sure everybody's okay and stuff like that. So he wants to go. He feels like he wants to be needed back there in a way. So anyway, after that, David tells Michonne about his wife. He got bit on the shoulder. He didn't get completely eaten, so he did get bit, so he will die. But he's still alive for now. So he tells Michonne about his wife, hoping basically he'll get to her before, succumbing to the walker bite. Annie insists that they basically stop to treat Scott's leg. Scott is injured. He didn't get bit. He did get shot by the other guy, though. So he got shot in the leg. He's kind of bleeding now, but he'll be totally fine. He'll be totally fine. The group checks basically cars in an abandoned town to see if any of them can be used to drive home. Heath recognizes the town as basically the location of Aiden and Nicholas's disastrous and fatal supply run, where a bunch of their fellow survivors and everything like that went with them to basically do the walker or to do the run for supplies and stuff like that basically went awry. And we heard about it in previous episodes that Nick, something happened with Nick, and he left a couple of people behind, and that's one of the reasons he feels so bad about it, and he's just not right in the head. And we get to see that throughout this entire episode, guys, that he's just not right in the head. Something's not right with him. You know what I'm saying? So we'll definitely see more of that right now. Like I've already said before in this episode review video, there is a character death, a major character death, and I'm not going to tell you guys anything yet. We'll talk about it when we get to it. I don't want to spoil things and then just go back to, reviewing over some of the smaller info in a way. So, yeah, that happens. So they retreat basically to a pet store where Glenn formulates a plan to basically set fire to a nearby building to distract the herd. Nicholas basically suggests that they set fire to a feed store, basically saying, there's a lot of stuff that's dry in there and it definitely could be useful, things like that. Definitely not a horrible idea. It's definitely not that bad. So that's their plan, and he's going to lead Glenn there. So Nicholas and Glenn are basically going off on their own to try to save the day. So over the walkie, this is actually what we've seen in the sneak peek, guys. If you guys missed the sneak peek and everything like that, link will be down in the description for my prediction video. If you guys want to go see the prediction video for this episode, definitely go check the link in the description below. That'll bring you guys to the prediction video, and then you guys can check that description, check out all the sneak peeks, or just go to the AMC.com website or the YouTube channel of AMC. Either way, you're going to get to the sneak peek. Anyway, we've seen this in the sneak peek, basically. Over the walkie, Glenn is filling Rick in on his plan, basically to, light a building on fire, try to distract the herd so that they can get away, and maybe try to distract some of the herd away from Alexandria. That's kind of their plan. That's what he's trying to think of doing. It's not a horrible idea. It could definitely work. We'll see if he executes it or not. Yeah, while he's informing Rick, obviously Rick sprints down the road, fight off a group of walkers. He does get he does get his hand cut in the process. I went over that sequence in my prediction video. Again, if you guys want to go see that, check it out. Link in the description below. But he gets his hand cut basically by a machete sticking out of the front of a walker. Obviously from the back, he gets his hand cut on that machete, and obviously that machete previously went through the walker, so there's like walker guts all over it. And we just don't know if that's kind of how infection spreads as well, like the bite. We don't know. I guess we'll find out. It's never really been taught to us. All we know is that the bite kills you, and the infection that you already have turns you into a walker. So yeah, we don't know whether or not that's going to kind of work like a bite or not. We really don't know. We've seen people swallow, or not really swallow, but get, walker guts and blood and stuff like that in their mouth before. But I guess in a way, the mouth really isn't an open wound. A cut on his hand could be a different story. I guess we'll really find out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really sure. Like I said, I guess we'll find out. So Rick might have been infected, or he could be totally fine. We'll definitely see. We get to see him struggle with the cut on his hand for the rest of the episode, so we'll see if it actually turns into anything. I'm kind of excited to see what it does. Obviously, he won't die. If anything, it'll finally catch up to him, like in the comic books where his hand is cut off. But in the comic books, spoiler alert for those of you that have not read the comic books, which at this point I don't know why you would, and if you were going to, you should probably read them by now. You shouldn't be waiting too long for anything. But yeah, spoilers. Basically, in the comic book, Rick gets his right hand cut off by the governor. Obviously, we're way past that in the TV show at this point. The governor's dead. He's long gone. He won't be cutting Rick's hand off anytime soon. As for the infection, they often take different paths in the TV show. For example, Andrea is still alive right now in the comic book. Obviously, she died back at the end of season 3 in the TV show. There's different paths. There's things that we need to, sort of know and think about as we're thinking about the story. There's different paths that they can take. So Rick's hand could be ended up cut off a little later in the series to an infection, instead of just a madman cutting it off out of sheer factor that he just doesn't like him, or that he's just a bad man, I guess. So anyway, back in the pet store, Annie and Scott point out that their injuries basically are slowing everyone down and urges the group to keep going without them. Heath basically looks at Michonne and refuses to leave anyone behind. Even though Michonne didn't say anything, he assumes that she's sort of with Rick's plan, because he sort of overheard Rick talking to Michonne and Glenn saying, some of these people aren't going to make it. Basically, leave them behind, get home if you need to. He overheard that, so he's automatically assuming Michonne is just going to, get the hell out of there at moment's notice and leave everybody behind. That's just not the way Michonne works. Even though Rick told her to do something, Michonne's not his pet. You know what I'm saying? So she has her own decisions, and Michonne's just not that type of person. Even though it could come down to life and death, which she does point out to Heath, basically, confronting him about his attitude. He basically tells her that he overheard Rick's instructions, stuff like that. Michonne angrily reminds Heath that he hasn't had to survive like Rick and doesn't know what it's like to be out in the world. Heath basically counters that, saying that, I've been on plenty of runs, and then Michonne points out that he's never been covered in so much blood that you didn't know if it was yours or Walker's or your friends. So you don't know. And conversation sort of ends there. Out in the town now, Glenn and Nicholas, obviously they're trying to, go find that feed store to light it on fire, distract the herd, stuff like that. They find a walker pinned underneath the car. Nicholas recognizes the walker as a friend that he and Aiden basically left behind during their supply run. He stabs the walker in the head and basically, finishes off that sort of storyline, sort of coming to a conclusion and getting some closure on it, if you will, putting the guy out of his misery after he's the one who left him. So he feels really bad about it, and Glenn basically, you're not that guy anymore. You're not that guy anymore. You're here now. So yeah, they rush away as sounds of gunfire erupt from the direction of Alexandria. Meanwhile, Rick reaches the RV and races off down the road. Basically, he finally reaches the RV, gets inside, stuff like that, and then it cuts again. Michonne's group sits quietly. This is a key part that we actually seen in the promo for the episode, I believe. Yeah, link will be down in the description of my prediction video as well, so definitely go check that out if you guys want to. The promo for this episode, obviously you've already seen the episode, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you have not, promo will sort of tell you what I'm talking about. But, I mean, if you have not, I don't know why you're still watching the episode. I don't know, maybe you like spoilers. It's totally up to you. Totally up to you. So yeah, her group sits quietly, basically watching walkers basically at the storefront, drawn by gunfire, things like this. Michonne sees David writing a farewell note to his wife. He tries to hand it to her. Basically, she refuses to take it, saying, you're getting home. I don't need that note. You will get home. She writes that on her arm, obviously trying to stay quiet, not talking or anything like that, not trying to lead the walkers over to the, front of the store and stuff like that. Walkers basically that have been lurking in the back room of the store begin pounding on the interior door, basically drawing the attention of the walkers outside. So they try to take care of it as fast as possible, and unfortunately it doesn't work fast enough. So they did take care of the walkers that were banging on like a supply closet door, I guess, inside the store. As the herd arrives in town, Michonne's group basically races out of the store, basically guns blazing. Michonne cutting down about 5 walkers or something like that at once with her sword, with her katana. There's a giant horde, finally coming through the town. It's finally catching up to them. At this point, obviously, they're still trying to carry, What's his name? What is his name? I'm trying to think of the guy that got injured, the guy that got shot. I'm not sure what his name is. I don't really remember. I know we were just talking about it a few moments ago. He's not really a key character. Maybe Scott, I think. I think it's Scott. Annie is obviously injured as well, a part of Nick's group, or no, a part of Heath's group, rather. Yeah, she's injured as well as Scott. Yeah, so basically they're going down the sidewalk, basically the street, trying to run away from the herd. Annie falls and basically, takes out a few walkers and basically says, keep going. I'm done for. She takes down a few walkers and then just is completely devoured by them. Meanwhile, Glenn and Nicholas finally reach the feed store, only to find that it has already been burned to the ground. So their sort of run to set a building on fire obviously is not happening anymore, because it's already been burned to the ground. Maybe somebody else already had the same idea to try to get away from a herd. We just don't know. So whether or not, why that's actually burned to the ground, I guess maybe we'll find out. Maybe it was another group or, something like that, burning the building to, again, get away from the walkers herd, or the walker herd, rather. But anyway, it was completely burned to the ground. Beside the point. Glenn basically urges Nicholas to suggest another building as the massive herd basically moves towards them. They're getting chased by the herd now, sort of. Michonne's group reaches the gate and climbs over it one by one. Or reaches a gate, rather, not the gate. It's not the gate. Reaches a gate and climbs over it one by one. Basically, the herd catches up and claws at Michonne and David, basically, as they climb over. David being the one who actually got bit on the shoulder, so he's pretty much gone anyway. Walkers drag David off the gate and tear him up as Heath basically looks on in horror. Michonne probably should have took the note that he made for his wife. She probably should have took it, but unfortunately she did not, and he did not make it home. She was just trying to be... She was trying to be hopeful, I guess, is a way to put it. She wanted him to get home. She wanted him to have confidence in the fact that he was going to get home. And, it didn't happen. So now, in another part of town, walkers basically corner Glenn and Nicholas in an alley. They took a wrong turn. Walkers are closing in. There's a gate behind them, as well as a dumpster. Gate with barbed wire at the top. And then on the other side of that gate, for that matter, is, again, more walkers. Not a giant herd, but definitely more walkers. And this is one of the parts, guys. This is the part that I've been talking about and hinting about throughout this episode review. This is the part where the episode starts to get really deep. So, anyway, they corner Glenn and Nicholas in the alley. Glenn climbs basically on top of a dumpster and helps Nicholas up as walkers surround them and grab at their feet. So they're literally on top of a dumpster, standing on top of his dumpster within a herd of walkers that are reaching up for them. They have nowhere to go. There's a gate behind them. They're completely trapped. They don't know what to do. And it doesn't really look like there's much hope. And by what happened next, there's not much hope. So he climbs on top of a dumpster, helps Nick up. After staring basically at the teeming horde all around them, a sudden calm, if you will, comes over Nicholas, which has been happening all episode, by the way. He's constantly been going in and out of consciousness rather. Just thinking about some other things. I'm not really sure what's going through his mind. I'm not sure if it's just getting to him. Obviously something's getting to him and he's just going crazy, something like that. I'm not too sure. But anyway, they basically run out of ammo. Well, at least we think we do, or we think they do. They pull out their knives. They started stabbing walkers before they jumped on top of the dumpster. They finally get up there, and like I said, that calm comes over Nicholas. He looks at Glenn and says, "Thank you," and basically shoots himself in the head. Nicholas shoots himself in the head with his gun, and blood splatters all over Glenn's face as they're on top of the dumpster. And Nicholas basically, his dead corpse at this point, because he shot himself in the fucking head, his body falls on top of Glenn, knocking them both onto the ground into the herd or horde, I guess, of walkers. And this is where we're led to believe that Glenn is dead. Yeah. Basically, he gets knocked into the herd by Nicholas's falling corpse and screams basically as he's engulfed by feasting walkers. But there's a but there, guys. There's a but. There's a really dim but hopeful but. There's some evidence to support that he is actually still alive. Whether or not, he is, I guess we'll find out. We'll definitely find out. But this made me so sad yesterday when watching the episode. I was literally distraught. My mouth was like wide open. I did not know what to think about it. And it's just, man, Glenn, he's a character that started out the show. All the way back in episode 1, we first seen, the starting of him. We didn't really see him in episode 1, but we heard his voice on the radio as Rick was in the tank calling Rick a dumbass, which was, by the way, one of the funniest moments. And we kind of get to see that nostalgic moment again in this episode while, talking to Rick before they left, basically calling him a dumbass that he was going to go on that run to the RV alone. Yeah, man, I just don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen. And I want to know already. You know what I'm saying? I will support some evidence and stuff like that, but I was thinking about doing an extra video for Glenn alone, guys. Like, did he actually die? Things like that. We'll definitely go over that. If you guys want to see it, leave it in the comment section below. I will definitely make sort of not really a review video, but sort of a thoughts video and, supporting some of the theories that are out there. One being, for example, that he wasn't on the Talking Dead Memoriam. That's a very good sign. That it's a very good sign. And then on top of that, if you keep in mind that Nicholas actually fell on top of Glenn, his body fell on top of Glenn, which means Glenn is under Nicholas. He's under Nicholas's body, and the Horde is basically eating Nicholas as Glenn watches, basically in horror. Probably. He's screaming, but he's probably screaming because of like fear and stuff like that. Maybe he thinks he's actually getting eaten, and maybe he's not. He does get completely covered in blood. There looks like there's intestines being pulled out, but again, Nicholas landed on top of Glenn. Whether or not we'll see anything from that, I do want to make a separate video on it. It's not going to be a long video. I'd say it's probably going to be about maybe an 8-minute to 10-minute video, if that. Just talking about some theories and stuff like that that could make it as though Glenn survived the encounter. But we will definitely find out, guys. We will definitely find out. But as for right now, the hope in me wants to say that Glenn is alive. But at the same time, he definitely could be dead. And if he is, we're just going to have to accept it. Eventually, it's going to be hard. It really is, because I don't want to. I really don't. So anyway, moving on with the rest of the episode. Basically, grim and exhausted, Michonne and Heath basically help Scott limp into the woods. As they wade through a creek, basically, Heath is shocked to see his blood-soaked reflection in the water. Meanwhile, Rick stops the RV at the edge of the woods, basically where Glenn directed him to intercept the herd. He tries to reach Glenn basically by walkie, but receives no response. Obviously, that being Glenn being, dead or tied up, if you will, almost getting eaten by walkers. We'll see what actually happened with him. Obviously, not really next episode, because next episode is going to be all about Morgan. We'll talk about more of that in the end of the episode review, so definitely look forward to that about next episode. Yeah, he receives no response. He radios Daryl and basically tells him the breakaway herd will soon be back on track. As Rick awaits, 2 men sneak into the RV and start firing at him. It's the wolves that Morgan let escape. So yeah, Morgan let them escape. He didn't kill them or anything like that, and now they're attacking Rick, basically. So Rick dives and returns fire, killing them. He sees more wolves sneaking up outside the RV, opens fire on them with an AK-47 machine gun, basically killing them all. Instead of challenging them straight on, he actually seen them sneaking up on the side of the RV, so he started shooting through the wall of the inside of the RV, presumably killing them all. Obviously, they all died, or else they would have still attacked. But anyway, he slaughtered all of them. The wolves are dead there, so Rick did what he needed to do. That's the main difference between Rick and Morgan, is the fact that Rick takes no chances anymore, and Morgan obviously does, in a way. He doesn't like killing people. That's it. That's all he does. I don't know. Daryl now on his motorcycle. Obviously not with Sasha and Abraham anymore, but went off on his own. Basically hears gunfire over the walkie-talkie, and calls Rick's name. Gets no response. He basically races down the road, reluctantly rejoining Abraham and Sasha as the herd trails behind them. So Rick basically convinced him in a way, I guess, to continue on the normal path and get back to doing your job, sort of. So anyway, Michonne and Heath and Scott now basically arrive at Alexandria to find the outlying buildings basically burned to the ground. Michonne unsheaths her katana. Rick now tries to start the RV, but the engine obviously falters. That could be the fact that he shot through the side of the RV and stuff like that. Obviously, the engine's not there, but he could have done something to it, I guess. He shot through the side of the RV to kill all the wolves, stuff like that. The engine falters. It doesn't start. He keeps trying and trying, basically, but without luck, as the massive breakaway herd that we originally seen going through the woods starts to emerge from the forest just behind the RV. So Rick's he's not stuck in the RV. Obviously, the door's open. He could, start running and stuff like that. But the horde's approaching, and the RV is not starting. And that's where the episode cuts, guys. That's where the end of the episode happens. So throughout this episode, we've seen Glenn, Nicholas. We definitely seen him die. We've seen Glenn go down. We don't know if he's dead. My hope is, I guess hoping that he is alive. And we've seen Rick overcome some things, obviously kill a bunch of wolves by himself, by the way. Which they should be embarrassed about. There was fucking a solid 6 of them attacking him. But anyway, we've seen that. We've seen the herd finally catching up to Rick and stuff like that. The RV actually not starting. Rick is, his hand's still cut. Whether or not what's going to happen to that, we just don't know at this point. Is he infected? Will he get it cut off due to just maybe an infection in general? Maybe not the zombie infection, but maybe some other sort of infection that could take over, like gangrene or something like that. Obviously, you don't get something treated very quickly, infection could set in and you can lose a limb just like that. That's just how it works. So that definitely could happen. But whether or not we'll see Glenn again, guys, we just don't know. Like I said, I will make a separate video, most likely tomorrow. I will probably make it a little later today, but I will upload it tomorrow. So definitely look forward to that. Obviously, Throwback Tuesdays will be going up tomorrow as well. So 2 videos in one day tomorrow. Definitely expected. So anyway, that's pretty much it for today, guys. I would just go over Glenn's death or potential survival right now in this episode review. I think Glenn deserves basically his own video. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a 20-minute one or something ridiculous like that. It'll be short and to the point. So hopefully you guys definitely will tune in for that. Like I said, that'll be posted tomorrow. I'll probably do the commentary for it tonight and stuff like that. So anyway, if you guys are down for seeing that, definitely show some support in the comments section or hit the video up with a like. Whatever you guys want to do is totally fine by me, and that will obviously encourage me to actually do the video a little faster, maybe get it out for you. So yeah, anyway, that's basically it, guys, for the episode review. If you guys did enjoy, feel free to hit the video up with a like, share it with friends. Tell me in the comment section below what you guys want to see from me. Also, share in the comment section below what you guys thought of the episode. Did you guys like it? Are you guys hoping that Glenn is alive? Are you guys glad that Glenn's dead? I don't know what kind of person you would be if you were, but leave it in the comment section. We'll have maybe a little mini discussion down there. Tell me what you guys thought of the episode in general. And like I said before, that is pretty much it for now. And obviously tune in this Thursday, October the 29th, to see my episode prediction for this week's upcoming episode of The Walking Dead entitled Here's Not Here. I believe it's a 90-minute episode on Morgan. That is right, guys. So we're gonna see what finally happened to Morgan between, seasons 1, 3, and then, when we seen him again and stuff like that. We're gonna see what he went through. It's basically a flashback episode, and I'm very, very excited for that. So next episode, it doesn't look like we'll see what happened to Glenn. We'll probably have to wait a couple episodes for that. It'll keep us on a cliffhanger, and it'll be really, really emotional going through the weeks without knowing, and it's just going to suck. So hopefully, guys, like I said before, did enjoy the video, and I will see y'all on the next one. Sorry for stuttering. It's early in the morning. I apologize. Bye, guys.